services from someone in the community that was able to help her clear out enough to stay. She is now in a healthy relationship with a man who respects her boundaries and loves her cats. She's able to partake in some of the more challenging outings because the group worked with her on all of them taking turns asking for breaks, which made it easier for her to ask for breaks. And she's now comfortable taking off the outermost layer of her clothing around the group. And the reason why this is important, the reason that she wears so many layers of clothes like their armor, is because of those previous sexual assaults. She does not like to have her body perceived by others, so the fact that she is comfortable enough to even take off that one additional layer is a huge step for her. In terms of my therapeutic foster care, I worked with mostly teens. Teens are my group of interest, along with LGBTQ stuff, but that's separate. I decided to name this person Kelly Clarkson because I decided to do same letter first and last name, and I got dedicated to that. And if you find the spelling offensive, I'm sorry, I do too. But what are K and S if not replacements for sounds that C already makes? It doesn't really matter where the C and the K go. So this kid that I worked with, yeah, so you guys lucked out because I totally could have done my unhinged deep dive into my theories on English. I think that probably would have been harder to interpret. But yeah, so if you think about the word, not a fun word, but cancer, those are both C's. The first one makes a K noise, the second makes an S noise. C's make both K and S noises. So I think that we should just replace everything with C. This is my personal theory and a totally different presentation that I could have done for a full hour and a half. I have one. I appreciate you asking me to clarify that. Okay, so this kid that I worked with, about 17, they lived with their grandparents until they were too old to care for her, and she ended up in foster care because her mom was still in prison for drug charges and her dad is an alcoholic. She was diagnosed with anxiety and depression at the time she came into our care. She didn't always take her medications. She instead used marijuana to self-medicate. She engaged in a lot of risky behaviors, running away from home and from school. She stole and crashed her parents' car 4 separate times. Ended up with some felony charges for it, actually. And she had lots of encounters with older men, from ranges of like 24 years old to 35. It was a lot to manage her. Some additional information about Kelly. She loves her grandparents, and she really does love her foster family, even though she puts them through the ringer. She enjoys all of the families on her foster family's farm, including the horses, the chickens. I think at one point they had birds, like parrots. She's best friends with her younger foster sister, who is the biological daughter of the family. They have a 6-year age gap, but that didn't seem to matter much. And she's always in some kind of relationship. So for Kelly, I'll kind of go over the things that most need work for her here. We need to work on her risky behaviors. So the running away, the encounters with men, which is usually sexual favors for marijuana. We need to work on her school compliance because she keeps leaving, she's failing her classes, and she has some difficulty with her relationship to her biological family because of what they are going through with their drug addiction, their alcoholism, all of that. Does anybody want to try a stab at applying one of our theories to Kelly? I can go back to that theory slide again as well if that is helpful. If I see enough nods, I'll do that. Okay. I know that there's a present from current slide button, but I'm incompetent, so we're just going to do this again. And we can apply any of these to her in different ways depending on what you think we should be focusing on. Connor.
I think two that would work is the humanistic theory. The humanistic theory, because she's had so many, she's done so many mistakes, like stealing her parents' car, but knowing to give her a second chance. And then also for the oppositional theory, with her needing to take her meds instead of using marijuana, and going to school, like those, giving her some motivation, like a reward that would probably encourage that behavior.
Yeah. So the humanistic theory absolutely applies. She struggles a lot with those feelings of love and belonging, which is why she does a lot of the behaviors that she displays. She really wants to belong in the foster family, but feels like she doesn't look the part, and so she doesn't act the part. She struggles with those basic needs to an extent. She has safety, security, she has enough food, water, access to those basic necessities, but she has not always had access to those, and that feeling of insecurity stays with you even once you are in a safer situation. So it's a matter of making her feel safe and figuring out what motivates her to continue that change. I can tell you right now, we tried so many systems. We tried reward systems, we tried punitive systems. We would reward her for doing her homework with phone time, but then she would use the phone to contact men that she would get marijuana from. So it was just restriction after restriction after restriction, which of course meant that she acted out more. Eventually, we did manage to find some things that worked for her. She transferred out of generic public school and went to BOCES. She was able to complete cosmetology classes. She managed to stay out of trouble for long enough that her cases were sealed as a juvenile, which means that she has no criminal involvement in her adult life. Those consequences do not follow her. She was adopted by her foster family once she turned 18, which was fantastic. I was invited to go. The day that I was supposed to go, that particular date fell through, but they did adopt her like the following month. And they love her so much, they provide her with everything, but she has gone back to her dad for now. That is the unfortunate most recent update that I've gotten. They're probably not in the safest of situations, but she has a community to go back to when she realizes that she wants it. And we did work on a lot of independent living skills with her so that she could be successful once she decides that she wants to get back on the right track. Because again, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I can't make her want to do better things. And this is the last one for the case studies. This is someone that I'm actually working with right now, so it's the most anonymized out of all of them. James Jones, 18 years old, diagnosed with ODD, depression, anxiety, a history of physical aggression during outbursts. He's had multiple hospitalizations for self-harm and suicide attempts. He has some developmental and learning disabilities which have led to the need for connection to academic support office. He has great family supports. He's reliant on public transportation, but is always able to make it to his appointments. He does have minimal peer support. It's only in the last couple of years that he's become mental health stable enough in order to create those longer lasting friendships. Some additional information: graduated with a standard high school diploma. He really does understand all of his care needs. I honestly feel unnecessary most of the time. He loves working with the elderly, and he struggles with independent living skills. Considering that he is a young adult, figuring out what he wants to do with his future, earning his degree, we know that he can struggle with some of his independent living skills. We kind of know what his supports look like. What theories do we think apply to him for his independent living goals, his education goals? How would we use, maybe I'll actually give a theory this time, how would we use the empowerment theory to help him reach his own goals? I'll just pull this up again. Anybody got a guess for how we'd use the empowerment theory here? Yeah.
Well, because we know that he struggles a lot with independent living, the empowerment theory is the one that's the most focused on trying to encourage those skills and access to resources. So trying to make it so that he feels as capable as possible, because he is an individual who needs to focus on specifically.
Yeah. So we've identified the things that he struggles with and that he can work on. He has some connection to me to work on those independent living skills. The empowerment theory would encourage us to make sure that he can use those skills without my help, without the help of other systems, but we do want system involvement to help get him there to that point of independence.
Cameron, I'm going to pause you just for 1 second.
Yep.